Today's true story from the Bible comes from the books of Isaiah and Micah. The first half of the Bible, the Old Testament, tells the story of God's people and every person's need for a Savior. God created the world, and it was good, exactly as it should be. But Adam and Eve, the very first people, disobeyed God and brought sin and brokenness into His perfect world. But God had a plan from the very beginning to send a Savior to rescue us. God promised that an offspring of Eve's would be hurt because of sin and evil, but would be the one to defeat the enemy. The Old Testament also tells us about the beginning of God's family. God promised Abraham that he would have many children and grandchildren. One day, the whole world would be blessed by Abraham's family, because the Savior would be a descendant of Abraham. God's people would continue to mess up and turn away from Him, but over and over again, God would rescue them. God promised King David that the Savior would come through his family and would rule forever. But God's people continued to disobey and were captured by their enemies and taken from the land God had given them. God sent many prophets to warn the people to follow Him. These prophets told people more about the Savior He had promised. The prophet Micah revealed that the Savior would come from the small town of Bethlehem. Micah said this Savior would be a great ruler who would shepherd His people and bring them peace. The prophet Isaiah shared that the Savior would come as a baby, born to a woman who was not married. He would be Emmanuel, which means God with us. The Savior would be God Himself. God loved His people so much that He had a plan from the very beginning to rescue us. Hundreds of years before Jesus was born, God revealed what He would be like and what He would do. Jesus is our Savior.